Good Wednesday to you, everybody. Income 731. Welcome to, are you ready for this? Boom, bam, week 14. We are almost finished. Speaking of finished, the last of this morning's, well, now by this time afternoon, coffee, Rocky Mountain National Park. There we go. Very, very fine place to visit. Highly recommend it. Okay. Welcome, everybody. We are winding down in this time in the semester. And so for this video, we are going to discuss the stuff that you did last week. All right. And see what we can add to it. And we'll say a little bit about this week and the next. Okay. So for this week, we're gonna wrap up the future of not-for-profits. You read chapters 8 through 11, and then I have a handful of articles that I thought you would find interesting in relationship to this book. Some of the elements, in the book, they talk about social media and how it has and hasn't helped not-for-profits. Well, there are three here articles that I've got for you. Serious social media, blogging and relational communication, and building blocks of social media. Because if you're going to be out in the marketplace and you're going to be in communication, and whether that's in the not-for-profit or the for-profit space, and you're going to be looking at this strategically, these are relevant topics and or tactics that you need to know. Okay, or at least that they're out there, man. Okay, so have a look at that. So yes, unfortunately, you are going to have some stuff to do over Thanksgiving, but not a lot. All right. So I will post that before the week because I have to take off. Let's see, look at the calendar really quick. On Friday, the 22nd, I go back and help with family during that time. And I will not be in the office on Monday. And as I'll be traveling, I'll be back on a Wednesday. So if anything goes off the rails, which I don't imagine that it will, okay, I will be back to, to answer your questions. All right. So there will not be there won't be a video for next week until way later in the week. All right. But, we're going to dial down the amount of work that we're doing in week 15 to give you a little space to finish your papers, okay, which are coming up to do, and to get ready for the final examination. And, okay, I'm having a second thought. You know what? Give me till like the end of today. Maybe we don't. Maybe I give you no material to work on during the Thanksgiving break, and you can spend all of that time completing your papers and getting ready for the final exam. Okay. Now, some of you have already started to upload your papers. That's fantabulous. Okay. The link in someone said, "Hey, I want to upload my paper." Where's the link? I'm sorry that I hadn't activated it. It is there in the assignment section of Canvas now. Paper due December 4th, which is today's the 20th. So next week is the 27th. So 2 weeks from now. Okay, so you got time. All right, and then of course, in the same space of time, the remainder of this week and next week, review the discussion sections for in preparation for the final exam. Okay, all right, enough about that. And if you have any questions, if my ramblings, my caffeine fuel ramblings, it's empty, aren't clear, shoot me an email. Now again, I'm going to be around internet connection. I'm not dropping off the face of the earth, but my mother is quite old, and the house usually needs work, and actually she does not have internet in her house. We old-fashioned. So I will be offline starting on about when is Thanksgiving? The 28th. So I'll be offline on like 25th, 26th. Okay. So if you don't hear something, if you send me something, you don't hear something from me, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not there. Okay. Let's take a look at the questions from last week. See what you said, see what we can add. Question number 1, why, according to Neff and Moss, is awareness so critical to the success of a not-for-profit, and not-for-profit, a not-for-profit? And yes, implicit in this answer is your understanding of what they mean by awareness. Michael, let's take you first because you went first. According to the authors, being aware of your own business or competition in the environment is critical to the success of any organization. The authors suggest running an awareness campaign that lets the world know who the nonprofit organ is, what it does, and how it is seen by the public. It also suggests that awareness campaigns let the organization know what competing organizations, great markets are doing. Okay, exactly right. One of the mistakes that you'll see made in the not-for-profit world is this sort of development of tunnel vision. People that get involved with projects for not-for-profits, all the best in terms of motivation. They genuinely want to solve problems. They genuinely want to help people, but they tend to look at what they're doing as if either, and I don't mean this in a literal sense, but either they're the only ones doing it, or, and I do mean this in a literal sense, that no one else is doing it like they're doing it, or doing it as significantly or as well as they're doing it. Okay. That's their perspective as a not-for-profit. Although having a strong sense of mission and a strong focus and drive is important for the success of the not-for-profit, the most important opinion about the importance of what they're doing and the uniqueness of what they're doing is not what they think about themselves. It's what the public thinks about them. And many not-for-profits fail because they first fail to understand, what does the public think? And by the way, it's not, if the public is like, yahoo, we need to have this, or the public's like, huh. Okay, that in itself is not deterministic of the success of the not-for-profit, but it's the key ingredient for positioning by the not-for-profit. Okay, so this is absolutely critical by way of a process and evaluation. I recommend it when I work with clients. I'd recommend it, certainly when you're starting out, and then periodically as you move along. There's this sort of nicetyness that goes with the not-for-profit world that, consumers will just go on a tear. I mean, just go onto Amazon and read the reviews for any product. They will go on a bender with photos about why they didn't like these pair of shoes, including, and I always start with the lowest reviews if I'm looking at a product, including, how long it took for the thing to get delivered. Well, okay, when it leaves the Amazon warehouse, and if it's going by, United States Parcel Service or the mail or whatever, UPS or USPS or whatever, that's not Amazon. Or who stomped on the box? That may or may not be Amazon, but they are hypercritical. Much less so in the not-for-profit world. Like, yeah, I really don't like those guys. And then the people just tend to fall off. They don't give them any more money. They don't participate. They don't respond. But you don't get that, my box had a dent in it and I hate you, that you get with the for-profit companies. I always recommend that not-for-profit companies routinely, and you need to vary it, because if it's the same time of year, what do you tell us? How's my driving sort of campaign? Yeah. Your supporters, they anticipate this, and some of them are like, oh yeah, there's that again. Mix it up a bit. Really, really important. Okay, question number 2. Please explain the following equation from Neff and Moss. Okay. ADV equals awareness squared plus call to action squared. Okay, what in the world is that? Neff and Moss. Okay, Crystal, I think you were last, so we're going to take you first. Okay, a biblical reference here. Neff and Moss utilize this formula to measure current efforts and also to plan for the future. It is essentially understanding call to action plan for not-for-profits. Awareness, how well the audience of not-for-profits understands their mission and values. Yeah, times itself. So like doubly aware of how everybody is aware. Call to action clear instructions and motivation the audience to behave in a certain way. You know, I that's good. I will tell you, by way of the public, Americans are action oriented. Okay. They want to know what it, you know, you can talk to them about a problem or an issue and they'll listen, but they're always expecting, okay, now what do I do about it? Now, in my own work and my own writing, I'll be honest with you, I find at times to be slightly, I'm trying to think of the right word because I don't want to use something that gives the wrong impression. Cumbersome to end what I'm writing about with. And well, this is what you do next, because sometimes, you know, what is to be done next? What is the best thing? I don't know. Some questions are really complicated. Okay, but as an author, I know full well that that's what readers are looking for. When I write and I talk about, you know, I do a lot of writing in various corners of the work in corners of the media. I do a lot of broadcast stuff. I'm often called on to give opinions about things political and these sorts of things. And I write about it and I, you know, publish it. And you can find me on X. What is it? At Gardner Writes, I think is my X handle. I'm full aware that when I put up a written piece, yeah, at Gardner Writes, that's you can find me on X. And I put up a written piece, and I haven't put in the, and then here's what you do. Very cranky people. Okay, that's because people are action oriented. All right. So maybe if I were writing the equation, I would tweak it slightly to say call to action cubed times itself. Okay. Michael, let's see what you had to say. You went first. The equation indicates the need for advertisements. And that's what I was looking for. What does the ADV stand for? To include awareness raising qualities and call to action. Now, interestingly, within U.S. law, for not-for-profits cannot have what's called a go statement. You know, so you hear, like, I don't know, there's a car dealer, and they've got a deal on, you know, Ford F-150. I'm just making this up, okay? You know, go now to, and they give you the dealer's address. Get your savings today. Get your low interest loan. Go. Under not-for-profit law, you can't do that. You can't have go statements in not-for-profits. So you have to have more subtle call to actions. Won't you help a child? Well, that doesn't mean give money to us. Won't you make a donation? Okay. You have to be a little bit more subtle. So, and then, you know, you might want to ramp it up a bit. Okay. But as long as we're on the topic of equations, I've got one, but if you've never seen this before, you know, I want to share with you. If you have, bear with me. Okay. Doesn't matter what it is. You're looking, you know, you want to work in not-for-profits, you want communication, you want to just be a better dad, a better wife, a better husband, a better member of your community, whatever it is. I'm going to give you the essential equation. Okay. The secret sauce to any of those endeavors. All right. And if you take this equation to heart and then ruminate on it a little bit, think about its component parts and the significance of each, and then act on your understanding, I guarantee you an increase in the success in your endeavors, whatever they are. You ready? Here's the equation. E plus R equals O. E plus R equals O. What in the world does that mean? Here are the component parts. The event plus your reaction equals the outcome. So, no, we cannot control the events in the world around us. Not entirely. Okay? However, we can influence them based on our reaction. And as it turns out, by way of this equation, as we influence the outcome of the event. So there's the event. Our reaction is, is what it is. The interesting thing about this equation is it becomes circular because the outcome, and then, here's the equal sign here, or I should say the outcome, to be, accurate about it in terms of mathematical terminology, the outcome drives the next event, which is there, which then elicits a reaction from you, which then gets another outcome. Maybe, have you heard that before? Get your head around it. That's the big think for your Christmas break. E plus R equals O. Okay, let's take a look at question number 3. According to Neff and Moss, how is structure crucial to an idea's survival in the advancement of innovation for a not-for-profit? Crystal, you're at the top here. Let's take a look at you. In the text, Neff and Moss asserts that good structure provides a framework for ideas to thrive. Essentially, the idea helps nonprofits to better predict future trends by providing a clear framework for creating and executing new ideas. Team members become more aware and more comfortable with innovation and fostering an environment promoting experimentation and creativity. Without a firm foundation, ideas and projects may suffer by experiencing challenges that result from inconsistency, lack of direction, reduced accountability, and limited innovation. Okay, excellent. Very, very well put. In my experience in not-for-profits, I have encountered places in which lack of structure became detrimental. One of the things that you may encounter is the presence of hyperstructure. That is that not-for-profits, they tend to drift towards ideological entities because there's some underlying ideological, political, theological premise that makes them go. And that can be very rigid in some instances, depending on how someone conceptualizes it. That, we are all about, digging clean water wells in Tanzania. Okay. Some places I worked actually with not-for-profits that dug clean water wells in Tanzania. Okay, great. What happens when you dig a clean water well in Tanzania? Is the importance of what we're doing to get the well dug, or to get the well dug in such a way that it provides consistently water for the community in ways that it doesn't create other problems. So for instance, now I'm actually thinking of a not-for-profit that I had worked with, I won't name them, that this was like the driving motivation. Dig the well, dig the well, dig the well. Okay. They paid a lot less attention to where the well was in relationship to existing settlements. And so they would find places to dig wells, dig them, take donor money, dig them, pay staff, all that sort of thing. And then these wells were like a quarter mile from where the settlement that they were meant to serve. Okay, I mean, you could make the argument that a clean source of water a quarter mile away beats no clean source of water. That was true. However, and in this specific instant, that necessitated the going back and forth between the settlement and the water well to get the clean water, and that burden, almost in this particular society there in Tanzania, in Maasai society, fell on the shoulders, quite literally, and the heads of the young girls. So instead of being in school or doing things, they were tasked with walking back and forth with buckets to bring water. All right. Well, okay, so you solved the water problem, but now you've created an educational problem for one segment of the group. Okay. So yes, that's important, but if you get into the not-for-profit sector, watch out for those that it becomes, rigid. Okay. Question number 4. List the 3 main elements of Neff and Moss's staffing solutions. In addition to these 3, How would you add? Would you add any additional elements? Okay, Julie. 3 elements of staff solution the authors point out are the right people in the right roles with the right skills. The author also points out that innovative companies all share the same thing. They all recruit, manage, and retain staff that is flexible and intelligent. Okay. All right, that is right, spot on. I'm going to leave off that last bit. Would you add anything additional? Because there's a lot to unpack there. Early on, when I got into the not-for-profit business, I don't say I was naive. I just was not fully informed about how many not-for-profits worked, and I did not take sufficient account of the phenomenon that people often come to not-for-profits needing the sense of, and this isn't a criticism, okay, needing the sense of belonging to the cause more. They needed it more than the not-for-profit needed them. And that was often because of their skill sets. And in the minds of the individuals, they thought that the passion, the intensity, the level at which, whatever you like, they felt about the thing that the not-for-profit was doing was the central qualification. I mean, oh yeah, okay, if you're running somewhere and you've got to have people show up to work, having somebody that's motivated to show up to work, that's important. That's not a stand-in for competence and for knowing what they're doing, functioning within a particular role. I mean, the analogy that I used to give is, just because somebody wants to get up and sing during church doesn't mean you should let them. And that's sort of an allusion to, if you've ever been in a church service where someone is singing, you just go, when does this end? Because they're not accomplished singers, and it's horrible, the sound. Okay. So early on, working with not-for-profits, I would say I was oblivious to that, but I was unaware of how centrally important that was. And I would design these media campaigns. I'd go to the place where the not-for-profit operated, in countries. I'd go way out in the field. I was working across the continent of Africa, and I was in the Caribbean, and I was in Asia. I was even up in the far reaches of North America and some really wild and out there places in Canada. And I was creating these elaborate media campaigns with websites and imprints and press releases, all to drive donors, all to build this funnel to drive donors down. All right, great. Except I didn't pay attention to the staffing because I didn't run the not-for-profit. I didn't pay attention to the staffing that would be interacting and handling the donors. And I had some experiences in which things went very badly, I suppose, for the not-for-profit. And, it's a funny thing about clients that hire you. I've seen things that I've designed for clients not work out, but I've seen many, many fewer clients blame themselves. They usually blame you. Well, he didn't do this right, and he was too complicated. And like, okay. So after getting burned once, significantly in terms of the design, it just crashed. I mean, it was a spectacular failure. I was working with a not-for-profit in Zambia. I thought, all right, we're going to have a different approach here. And in fact, I got lucky enough that I got a do-over with that not-for-profit. They brought me back to fix what hadn't gone right with the first rollout. I said, okay, here's what we need. And I even came up with a term that sort of, put it in a nice little package for the leaders of the not-for-profit. I called it capacity assessment. And what that meant, that was a fancy way of saying that I was going to ask for a little bit of time to sit down with each key person in the key roles. And I would just talk to them about who they were and what they do. But in doing so, I had a very directed purpose in mind, that I was gathering information that helped me make an assessment of their capacity to do the role that they were in. And in the case of this not-for-profit, as I found out that the guy who was assigned to the director of IT, information technology, knew very little, compared to someone that lives in the West, like me, knew very little about information technology and what information technology meant amongst the people that had organized this not-for-profit was answering email. Now, and I don't say that as a condescension and ridicule. But it was like, whoa, man, there was a big gap between knowing how to answer email and knowing how to get around the backside of a web page and work as an administrator. So I developed sort of simplistic or simplified explanatory parts of my presentation to explain this, why this should be done to the not-for-profit and what they expected to get out of it. And it went something like this. I say, okay, because I've never met a not-for-profit that's come to me and said, you know what we need this quarter? We need to take in fewer donations than last quarter. The money's just coming in too fast. Slow it down. It's always, we need to make more money, and it's usually some gigantic amount, some very large jump in the percentage. How are we going to do that? And I say, okay, let's just imagine that you were a pizza parlor, and you came to me and you said, this quarter we need to sell twice as many pizzas as we sold last quarter. Great. The first thing that I say in response to that is, show me your pizza oven. Because if your pizza oven is a toaster oven, you're not going to sell twice as many pizzas. Oh, we can design a media campaign that will bring twice as many people to your door. But because of the bottleneck, see, and I didn't tell them, but the toaster oven stood in for incompetent people in various positions. Because of the bottleneck of the toaster oven, what's going to happen is all those additional people that show up at the door, probably about half of them are never going to get a pizza. They're never going to get anywhere near it because you can't crank them out. And they're going to be furious. They'll leave. You'll never see them again. And the other half, who normally gets their pizza at an expected time, it's going to take twice as long for them to get their pizza. And then that half that remains is going to drop by half. And so in terms of the net number of pizza-seeking customers, that will go down. Because the reputation of the not-for-profit will suffer. And people say, well, I gave my money and I didn't hear back from them, or they said they were going to do this and they didn't do that, or I didn't get my tax deductible statement, or all of these things on and on and on and on that go into giving money to a not-for-profit. And it worked. Not only once I started doing that, did the programs that I put in place, were they more successful? And that helped me too, because then I began to design media programs that took into account the skill sets of the people that were at the not-for-profit. Because although, what Neff and Moss says are true, that's the ideal. All right. And by the way, if you're thinking about running a not-for-profit, or if you're running any business, there's an old maxim that's well worth paying attention to. And that is, sometimes any solution is worse than no solution, or doing something can be worse than doing nothing. Sometimes not putting somebody in a position saying, let's wait. Let's try to figure this out first. That could be a better option than going, we just got to have somebody throw somebody in there. No. So not only did it help me in designing the types of programs, media programs that I designed, and fundraising programs that I designed for not-for-profits, from a business perspective, it gave me more contact hours for which to bill the not-for-profit. Okay. So win-win. Okay, everybody. That's all I have for you this week. So yeah, I've decided my mind's made up. I will not give you readings for next week. You can concentrate on your paper. So what I'll do is I'll just put up a module week 15 saying no readings. Concentrate on finishing your papers. Prepare for your final exam. Have a great week. It has been an absolute delight having you here during the semester. Okay, but I think about you often, and those of you that I've talked with and have gone through things and have toughed it out this semester, God's blessings to you. So I pray for you, and I will see you again on Canvas. Take care. Bye-bye.